Hi everyone, my name is Anastasia and I'm head of product at Clausematch. To take a few moments to talk about what Clausematch is and why we're here today. Clausematch is a financial technology company. We work with financial services firms and regulators in the industry. And what we really are trying to achieve with our product is helping organizations to digitize compliance. And that means digitize the regulatory requirements that organizations are trying to oblige to or follow and comply with. As part of the project work and as part of collaboration with Abu Dhabi Global Markets, we've put in a significant amount of effort and work over the last year or so, looking at how can regulations be turned into digital machine readable format and really look at how it could be turned into machine executable format as well to help organizations to comply. So as a result of the collaboration, we have digitized over 24 different sections of the rulebook, which is around 2,000 pages of text. And we've semantically tagged this information into knowledge graph work. So today, really what we wanted to show you is why this work has been done and why knowledge graphs is an important advancement towards machine readable, machine executable rulebooks. So let me share my screen and show you the work that has been put in place and talk about all of those reasons and questions that we are trying to answer. So I hope you can all see my screen. I'll pause the video as I go through and to explain what we have done and the work that was put in place. So the 24 sections of the rulebook and the 2,000 pages, as you can see, have been digitized into a digital copy of the rulebook. And here I'm demonstrating the sections that were digitized. And more specifically, to give you an example, one of the sections was conduct of business. And as we looked at conduct of business, we've broken it all down into entities or paragraphs or sections, if you want to call it that way. And as we did that, we worked together with ADGM and brought in subject matter experts to enable us to train AI models, to train those models to identify semantically what the content is all about. So here I'm showing you that we have sections and paragraphs broken down. All of that content is available through our public API. And what we've done is we ran our trained AI models across all of the content that was digitized. And you could see there was a number of, or many tags that was applied to content. So we looked for entities around regulated activities. We looked at financial products and services. We looked at risks. We looked at mitigations. And just the very first initial benefit of doing this work is ability to filter or search through the content and identify all of the related information. And you can see, generally, if we apply it across the entire rulebook, there's a lot of insight and a lot of knowledge and a lot of information that this content provides. But that also means that there must be a better way or easier way to visualize and to understand all of this information, given that there's quite a lot of content humans have to work with. And this is effectively where knowledge graphs come in. We want to take all of this information and all of this knowledge and bring it into a more visual form so that compliance officers or individuals can assess the connections across documentation, can assess the interdependencies across different obligations and rule books, and really start interrogating that information and really uncovering the insight from all of this work. And on that note, I wanted to pass it on to our lead data scientist, Vladimir, who can show you exactly the same conduct of business rulebook, but in a more digestible, as I promise, way.
Yes, hi. So let me walk you through the knowledge graph-based version of the ADGM corpus and ADGM text. So as you can see here, we got those creamy bubbles to be paragraphs from ADGM regulations. And we specifically see here a table of contents for two of the documents. Each paragraph relates to other in terms of document structure, and we can interrupt with each paragraph and expand it and see what text is coming next. And even more to that, as you can see, we have the purple bubbles and the blue bubbles, which indicates the GM taxonomy terms being detected in any part of the text in the GM COPS regulations. And as you can see here, once we identified some concept, we can expand and see all other places where, for example, records keeping were also mentioned. And by doing that, we can then click on any other occurrences or mention. And by doing that, we will see the paragraph where it comes from. And this also, as you can see here, gives us, for example, an insight that those two documents intersect by this term, and we can see exactly where the intersection comes from. So we can do this also in terms of query, and we can query two documents and test them for intersection against, for example, products or financial activities, financial services, or many other types of financial entities. As you can see in this example, we query two documents, and we are retrieving the intersection based on the products. So we just asked what two products are common for those two documents. And as we can see here, we can instantly get high-level insight and the answer to this question by observing the blue terms, which happen to be products which mentioned both in the IML document and in the COPS regulation. And so yeah, we see here that we got 6 products to be regulated in both of the documents, and we can see exactly where the intersection happened. And more than that, all the data which we retrieve is machine readable in machine executable format. So it's JSON, which we can then put for processing into any downstream pipeline. And this allows us to also, let me pause the video here, to also demonstrate some collaboration work which we did on the back of the knowledge graph. So meet Manson.
So welcome everyone. To give you the context for the next stage in our demonstration, I need to spend a little bit of time talking about the University of Cambridge's regulatory genome project. The RGP is a long-term program, and its goal is quite simply to create a complete, comprehensive global repository of financial services regulation and make this material available to all as machine-readable open data. Not just so that people can see what the regulations are, but so that developers, regtechs, firms themselves can come together and build interoperable applications against the genome data. Now, why are we in this? Why are we doing this? The university is obviously not a regtech or regulatory intelligence vendor, and we're not trying to make our way into that industry. But what we are in the business of is using research in order to build public goods. And there's obvious signs out there that there is key infrastructure missing when it comes to digitizing financial services. Now, for every jurisdiction that's already well along the way towards making regulation machine readable and machine executable, including Abu Dhabi, there's a long tail of jurisdictions that are slower to digitize, and an inequality wedge risks emerging in that space. But even those jurisdictions that are leading the way could contribute further to fragmentation by mapping their regulatory frameworks, each in their own individual way, that cannot necessarily be reconciled. Now, even when you look at regulated firms, what you can often see is that there are too many tools, too many vendors, indeed, in some cases, too many teams that can't talk to each other because they don't share common ontologies or they don't share single sources of truth when it comes to regulatory content. The result is a large number of costly, time-consuming ad hoc fixes just to get things to talk to each other and work together. And if you're a regtech vendor, obviously that's a serious problem, because you're forced to spend a lot of your money, often, your seed and early stage money, building content libraries or buying them in, or working on integration projects with clients, when instead you should be focusing your efforts on building your own USPs. But even zooming out into kind of the realm of academic research, where a lot of my colleagues are working, it's very hard to know what the state of the art is in the use of things like AI in order to enable regtech applications. There are no benchmark data. It's very hard for researchers to actually compare nodes against the same data sets. So the genome tries to address all of these points to a greater or lesser extent. Now, just to make things as practical as possible, what does the genome actually do? At the heart of the genome is a collection of taxonomies of regulatory obligations and key concepts that are jurisdiction agnostic. They're optimized to allow you to compare like for like across regulatory frameworks. We match those to human tagged training data from a diverse source, from a diverse set of regulatory content from many different jurisdictions, in order to train jurisdiction agnostic classifiers. So classifiers are basically statistical models represented as code. They do one job. They can look at a piece of text, whether at the document or the paragraph level, and say, what is the probability that this text is about a particular topic? So for each node in our taxonomies of regulatory obligations, and there can be, anything in the order of 100, 150 per domain, we add a corresponding classifier. Now, once you have a body of classifiers ready to use, then any incoming document that's been parsed at the paragraph level can be processed. Tags can be applied to it so that any application that receives it and that is aware of the genome taxonomies can understand what each piece of text is about. So the end product of the genome are machine readable representations of regulatory documents. And once you've got those, there are many things you can do. Obviously, people can access them via an API and feed them into applications. Anything in the range of regulatory intelligence tools, workflow tools, business process management, rules engine. But the crucial part, the one marked number 3 in this slide, is what we internally within the project call the handshake. It's the process of reconciling the genome taxonomies to the firm's own internal ontology of, let's say, risks, products, controls, processes. Once you've done that, you can automate the process end to end and pass information across the compliance chain. Importantly, any two applications that are mapped to the genome can, of course, talk to each other. They can exchange information with minimal loss of information along the way. Now, the genome isn't just about building taxonomies and classifiers. Obviously, it's also a platform on which people can come together and build applications together. So some aspects I've already discussed, taxonomies and training data, which will be made open to the public, the classifiers that help us deliver accurate content and queries at scale. But in addition to those, what the platform needs to incorporate is tools to help people build applications and consume content in effective ways, and a marketplace on which people can showcase the interoperable applications that they've built against the Genome assets. Now, to make this very practical and relate this back to the excellent work that's been done on the ADGM knowledge graph, I wanted to walk you through an example, a worked example. So here we're going to take we're going to focus on the story of a compliance team within a growing fintech based in Abu Dhabi that's expanding abroad. In this case, we've assumed they'll be expanding over to Qatar. And I guess the key principles in how we want to address their challenges is, first of all, we want to find a way to reduce the dimensions of the problem as much as possible. So a firm shouldn't have to already know all the rules in order to query the rules in another jurisdiction. They should be able to work outwards from the way they've already built their compliance operations, from the policies and controls and systems that they understand, in order to see what is familiar in another jurisdiction and what is not compatible, so that they can understand where the change is. So I'm going to take you through a journey of how you get content out of the genome, process it through the ADGM knowledge graph. And so halfway through, I'll be handing over back to Vlad at the Clausematch team. But first, let's have a very, very quick example of what a call on one of the RGP search APIs might look like. So you should be able to see this shortly on my screen. So here you will see exactly what the API call looks like. It basically addresses a particular node in our AML taxonomy, so customer due diligence and ongoing monitoring. And if you click on this to simulate running the query, you will see that we've discovered the two key reference documents for CDD in Abu Dhabi. You won't be surprised to find that they're basically versions of each other. So one is one is more recent, one is a little bit older, but essentially the same guidance. And the machine readable version of this document looks a little bit like this. So you can see here the electronic tags, the regulatory genome tags that have been applied at the document level, but also if we were, for instance, to zoom into any of the snippets or paragraph-like bits of text within the document, you would see that they also carry their own individual tags. So now going back to these documents, what we want is to find the nearest equivalent document in Qatar, in another jurisdiction. If we do that through similar document search, you will find that we are able to identify a key piece of regulation from 2010 that is the reference document for AML in that jurisdiction. Again, a similar machine readable document can be created, representation, sorry, can be created for that document. And this is what actually gets handed over in this example to the Clausematch team to be processed against the ADGM knowledge graph. So with that, I'll hand over to Vlad at Clausematch to show you what is happening on the other side.
Right. Thank you, Manos. So as we can see here, we get RGP tags, and we also got paragraphs from them. And then we put them against our prepared machine learning models, and they processed all the data and structured them into a knowledge graph format automatically. And it allows us to map any text of any regulations from RGP into ADGM taxonomy and get the insight on how the intersection may look like. So as you see here, cream bubbles paragraphs, and pink references to at the GM taxonomy, like risk requirements or policy procedures and so on. And as it now also part of a knowledge graph, we can also jump into each bubble, for example, policy procedures, and get insight about all other policies and procedures which appears to be inside the GM graph. So by doing that, we also can then get the text of the paragraph where we got other policies or procedures, for example, obligations being mentioned, and this also completely traceable back to Clausematch platform, as each paragraph has a link to the initial place where it was extracted. And also we can represent this data in any more convenient readable form and get the exact content of the obligations which appears to be relevant to the extracted text from RGP project. So this gives us the ability to then instantly go into relevant policies or procedures and take necessary measures. And this also works for any organization or firm which put their data into Clausematch platform, as it allows us to structurize it using our machine model solutions. So on this note, I'm going to pass to Anastasia for some additional words. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir and Manos. It's been obviously a really, really exciting and interesting collaboration, and I can definitely see lots of value to organizations globally from this machine executable and machine readable work and the outputs that we're able to produce using the technology of today. On that note, just a final thought to wrap up the conversation. Obviously, being speaking at the Abu Dhabi event today, but in general, talking about Abu Dhabi initiatives and ADGM initiatives around SupTech and RegTech, I wanted to finalize by talking about ADGM Digital Lab and the opportunities it presents, and also really high level also describe or talk about that everything that we were talking about today and the knowledge graph work that Clausematch has done is part of the Abu Dhabi or ADGM Digital Lab and can be accessed and looked at and worked on top of using our API capabilities. So please take a look. We're hoping that this will be helpful to other organizations and technology vendors out there. And absolutely feel free to reach out and give us any feedback or thoughts. We would love to collaborate with many more projects out there as well. So on that note, thank you very much.